Welcome to Leaders in Light, Love, and Legacy, airing every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fave Unite Radio FM. This is a space where bold conversations ignite and focus on power, presence, purpose, and the beautiful balance of the divine, masculine, and the feminine. We explore how to align them fully. And today, we have a good conversation. I'm Joy Ruffen, your minister of enlightenment, awareness, and awakenings, and a signature style and leadership specialist. Each week, I'll be joined by a dynamic guest speaker who will bring fresh wisdom, fierce insights, and unapologetic truth to the table. Don't you love that? Once a month, I will be featured as your solo speaker. But today, it's different. And my fellow League of Eagles, did I forget to say, wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, maybe to a few of you, good night, wherever you are. Welcome to Leaders in Light, Love, and Legacy. And we're airing every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Now, my beloved League of Eagles, I want to read to you a little bit, just a wee bit, a teaser about my featured guest speaker. This is an old friend. I don't mean old in age, I mean time. Well, what is time? I've known her for quite a while. I love the work that she's doing and what she's all about. Samantha Wyland is a certified integrative nutritional health coach. She has her own unique health and wellness story, which we're going to share with you today. So I want you to sit back and relax and get comfortable. Creative nutritional health coach is what she's all about. She's all about health and wellness. I love it that health, as I know now, and not because I'm a happy senior, that health is everything. We have to take care of this vessel, this temple, this body of ours. She is a patient-turned-health coach and back to health coach. She did her own research. This is what I loved about her when I met her many moons ago, it seems, and educated her doctors about the root cause of her condition. And now she uses that same knowledge to walk her clients down the path to freedom and a better quality of life. Confident they have the support of someone who has been in their shoes. And today, my League of Eagles, what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about that old word, and people like aligning it with old, not necessarily. We're going to talk about menopause, but we're going to start off a wee bit and let you get to know a little bit more about Samantha. Samantha, my friend, come on up, as they say. How are you? And welcome.
Hi, thank you, Joy. Pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you because this thing called menopause, I mean, all the work that you do as an integrative nutritional health coach, it's important that you're segueing because of where you are at your stage of life. But tell us a little bit about how you got into this health coach in the business before we get deep into menopause, because I know that's what people want to hear more about, especially women.
Yes, absolutely. So my journey began at perimenopause. I was young. I was in my mid-30s, 36 maybe, which is young for perimenopause. So many of my doctors were not believing that that's actually what was going on with me. So between my gastroenterologist, my gynecologist, my GP, we were just going around and around and around, and no one could really come up with the diagnosis. And I was treating everything from skin conditions to stomach conditions to panic attacks and hot flashes, and I couldn't sleep. Pretty much across the whole medical board, I had issues. And I started to write down what my symptoms were, what happened that day that was maybe different or upsetting or interesting, and what I ate, what medications I took, what kind of reactions I had. And I noticed that they were happening in a cycle. And that cycle began to get shorter and shorter and shorter. So whereas there's day 1 and there's day 28, I was like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, back to 1. So my cycle was very, very short. So basically my symptoms did not ever resolve. I never got that break that people get when they have a natural period.
Ah, what a beginning we have here. And you gave us already, Samantha, so many gems, pearls that I'm going to piggyback with you on, because this thing called menopause, you mentioned para, P-A-R-I, is that how you spell it? Menopause. Started young. I don't ask people their age here because I'm not into the age thing. Being a happy senior, you can categorize me however you want to. But when and where does that start if we're starting with the young perimenopause? Is that in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s? What range are we talking? I want to break this down so everybody gets the nuts and bolts of what we're talking about.
Yes, perimenopause begins generally in your 40s. As women, it's when your body stops producing as much estrogen and as much progesterone as it did in your younger years. And then at some point, and we'll get to this later, you cross that bridge into menopause where your body is no longer making those hormones at all.
Ah, that's interesting because I don't know it, but I listen and I read a little bit of everything, and it's so much up here in this brilliant noodle that it all gets mushed together sometimes. I remember somebody on a TV show many, many moons ago, she was in her late 30s. I think she said she was 38. So when you say around about the 40s, that makes sense to me. And I would think it probably began somewhere between, let's say 38 and 42, somewhere in there if it's perimenopause. But what you said, you dealt with so many different things. You had skin issues and you had all kinds of symptoms. But the beauty of what I find with you, Samantha, and I've always found this with you, you take charge of your own health issues. So you started your own way of tracking your symptoms, of doing what you need to do. What brought you to that? I already know the answer, but I want you to share it with the audience, because prior to this menopausal thing that we're talking about today, you had another issue that you dealt with that you did more or less the same thing. You began to track your own symptoms and what was happening to you. So what was the number one symptom, I'm bouncing here, that made you say, I've got to get my own records and keep my own records and then share them with the doctor, and we together can come up with some kind of solution? When did that happen?
So the number one symptom I had was digestive issues.
Yes.
And I was going back and forth with my gastroenterologist, trying different medications. Some things made it better, some things made it worse. Some of them made me want to jump out a window. And he was convinced at some point that he was missing something. So he sent me for some tests that I was convinced, okay, we're going to find something. They're going to pick up on the table and he's going to say, Samantha, you have colitis or you have Crohn's, and here's a whole profile of how you're going to live your life and what medications you're going to take, what foods you're going to eat, and you're going to get better. And I woke up on the table and he said, okay, Mrs. Wyland, everything looks good. I'll see you in my office in 4 to 6 weeks.
Hey. In many ways, I'm laughing and I'm chuckling with you in love, Samantha, because this is what I always applauded you for. You take control of everything that you dealt in life. And unfortunately, so many of us don't do that in different ways. So you start off with digestive, and now you're at another cycle of life, perimenopause. So let's get to that, because you mentioned the symptoms and the food you ate, and you started keeping records and all that type of stuff. Give us your definition, because I never assume anything anymore at this stage of my life. And I didn't do it either when I was much, much younger. But what is menopause to you, and what did it bring to you initially? How did it begin with you? Because everybody, whether they're there or going to get there in time, or however, they want to know, we want to know more. So tell us about what it means to you, menopause.
So just to back up to the story a little bit to when things began. Yes. So after I completed the testing and they found nothing, I hit rock bottom. I couldn't go back to my doctor. I couldn't really leave my house. I just kind of became a shut-in. I was very depressed. And then I decided that I was angry. And I called my doctor and I made an appointment and I went back and I yelled and I cried and I how could you find nothing wrong with me? And, he's like, Samantha, I know this is a pain in the neck to deal with, these stomach issues, but you have to, he said, you have to use the tools you have in your toolbox. Because when you get bad, you'll get to a certain level. And then when your symptoms get bad, you end up falling all the way back down the stairs. So you need to stop yourself before you hit the bottom. So he put me on another medication. And then that was a whole torture in itself. So I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm not having any more tests. I'm not taking any more medication. I started doing some research because I was having mood swings. I was having hot flashes. I was having night sweats. So I did and because I was seeing that my symptoms were happening in a cycle, I thought, okay, maybe this has something to do with my period, being that it never ended. It was a period, 365 days a year. And I found an article on Johns Hopkins University on perimenopause and premenstrual dysphoric disorder. They listed 100 symptoms ranging from cardiac to skin to the whole gamut of the medical world. I had 99 of those symptoms.
Whoa. Wow.
And I brought that article to my doctor, and he said, oh my God, this is exactly what's wrong with you. You need to get control of your hormones.
So let's back up, Samantha. You mean to tell me, let me make sure that I'm hearing you. You're telling me that you did this research yourself, found and looked at, discovered all of these symptoms. You had 99.9. I'm exaggerating to make the point. And then you took it to your doctor and he or she said, yes, that's what they had no clue what it was before until you brought the research, the data to them.
That is correct. Most specialists like to stay in their lane. So my gastroenterologist was simply focusing on my gastro symptoms and trying to treat those gastro symptoms with medication. But what was actually causing my symptoms was my wild hormones being perimenopause.
Wow. I find that fascinating. And I'm sure a lot of people tuning in for whatever the symptoms or something that's aggravating them or uncomfortable for them now. I hope that they'll be inspired by your story to get into the process, which is what I'm doing in a different way about something, and do their own research to discover what it could be. Because you mentioned, what you're dealing with now as far as mood swings and night sweats and your hormone changes and whatever. Give us a little bit of insight, as much as you want to share, about how the mood swing thing affected you and the night sweats. Give us some stories. We like stories about what that's all about. Because I can share with you personally, I don't have secrets, I don't hide, but I never went through menopause because I had a hysterectomy for fibroids when I was very, very young. So I didn't deal with that yet. There are some symptoms that are still prevalent somewhat. So I want to know more for my own edification about it. So what are mood swings and night sweats and hormonal changes? Share with us a little bit about how and what happens there.
So in the beginning, when it first started, when it was perimenopause,
yes,
mood swings, emotional breakdowns, crying, and I'm not a crier, anxiety attacks that I would shake so bad I felt like I was having a seizure. Night sweats, I would have to get up in the middle of the night and literally change my pajamas because I was just drenched. And this was all pre-medication. So this was before we started to treat the root cause of my condition, which was hormone fluxes, which is what happens when you're in perimenopause.
Wow. And I've heard women talk about how the night sweats or the sweats or the mood swings would cause them to break out in sweats, and they would go to the refrigerator and open up the door and tell stories like that. So I'm absolutely mesmerized by how this can happen. And the emotional breakdowns, and you said you're not a crier, and neither am I, so maybe that's why we connect. But how did you deal with those emotional breakdowns? What were they for you? Were they just anger burst outs, or give us a little bit more about that?
I would lash out at people, particularly my husband, the poor man. Anything could cut me off. And he was actually recovering from from some surgery that he had had, and
Oh, God.
I wasn't so pleased with the treatment that he was getting, and I just kept yelling, screaming, and crying. Won't you deal with this? Won't you handle it? And anything would set me off. Anything.
You know what? You triggered something for me there, and I don't stay in the box. I'm very much out of the box. You know that, and so are you. But you said something there in your description when I asked you about the emotional breakdowns and how you reacted and dealt with them and how they made you react. What you said is that your significant other was maybe going through his own health issues or something. But yet when you lashed out, you said something about, why can't you take care of this and why can't you handle this or something like that. Is that what I heard? Because
definitely ironic, isn't it?
Let me tell you why it's ironic, because I'm all about the divine femininity, which means a combination, which we all have, the male and female, of the masculine and the feminine, the balance and the harmony and the grace between those two. And we as women, because of our programming, I'm in your camp, so this is not a lash out to you. Our programming, conditioning, and our sexualizing, we look to that male component partner, significant other, whatever he or she might be, to fix stuff for us. But the beauty is that you're fixing your own stuff. That's what you're sharing. So you didn't wait for him to come around and to help you out. That's why I'm laughing and joking with my own sense of being about what you share. Now, when it comes to the hormonal breakdowns and all of the stuff that you shared with us and the way that you're handling it, let's talk about how, because it really piggybacks to what you shared, the balance that you have found thus far that you're going to share with us about the balance and the dance between science and nature. Share with us what that means to you and how you are incorporating that in this integrative nutritional work that you're doing.
Well, at the point when they had discovered that my issues were my hormones being off the charts wacky, they put me on a course of treatment. I took 3 medications, and then and it helped with the panic. I mean, it almost completely got rid of the panic attacks, got rid of the cramping, got rid of the night sweats. I could sleep through the night. I was much, much calmer because I had lost so much weight. We had to go ahead and attack these symptoms pretty aggressively. And not only because I was having so many stomach issues and not eating a lot, I was also hemorrhaging so much that I was losing nutrients. So
what type of hemorrhaging were you doing?
So my periods were very, 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 very heavy. So not only was I not keeping food in, I was also losing blood, massive amounts of blood. And for a normal woman with a normal period, you might get a little bit lightheaded, you might need a little extra iron, but when it's constant, not ending, I was just drained of everything. I was, a walking shell of a human being.
Ooh, oh my goodness. I'm just thinking about it. When you say, I don't think many of us think much about this, but you know what you said, Samantha, that what I'm discovering now with some of the issues I'm dealing with, the medical industry, and I understand it, but you said this is not your verbiage, I'm changing it. You were flooded with all different kinds of medications that they gave you. And then towards the end here, you're saying that it helped you, some of them with your panic attacks and so on and so forth. But what I'm discovering thus far, and that's why I wanted to talk about the balance of science and nature, is that, like the example that you gave us originally about having to go to the doctor after you had done your own research and discovered symptoms and so on and so forth. And then he or she said to you, oh, that's what it is. Medication, they're known for. They'll give you medications for every little thing that you have, but they don't get to the core source of what it is. Why is that?
Well, like I said, doctors kind of stay in their own lane, and my gastroenterologist was treating just my stomach conditions, which were not helping my hormones. Then when we moved to discovery, we discussed different medications that would help to regulate my hormones through my brain in a consistent way, as same as someone who has thyroid issues. You take a medication to regulate the thyroid through your hormone through your brain. So the medication that I chose to take regulates the amount of hormones going through my brain so that it's at a consistent level. So yes, I have some highs, I have some lows, but I don't have extreme highs and lows that I did before.
Yeah, well, that consistency and the highs and lows, I think that's so prevalent with anybody who's having some kind of a health issue. And you're also, when you talk about the balance of science and nature, you said, I think 2 or 3 times that and we all know this somewhat, but to hear it from someone who has dealt with it at a different level, each doctor has his or her specialty. And so they, in turn, they need more feedback. And this is what I'm gathering from you, and correct me if I'm wrong. They need more data and information from you so they can probably lead you into the right medications that you need that will help you. Because I did hear you say that whatever medication they gave you after certain realms of not feeling well, it helped you with your panic attacks and so on. So was that after you had explained to them in depth some of the issues that you were having? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I was the one that decided that I wanted to go on an SSRI, which is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. A lot of people frown at the thought of taking one. I again researched which ones, were out. My doctor prescribed one for me, and I read the what it treated and what the benefits were and the side effects and different things. And I was like, nope, this is not the one I want to take. And I chose actually, I went to my GP and I said, I would like to take an SSRI. And she looked at me and she said, okay, which one would you like to start with? I told her the one that I chose, and I'm not going to endorse any brands. I'm just going to say I chose the one that I thought was right for me. And it was the right medication for me. It was the right thing for me to do at the time, and she supported me and gave me confidence that I would be okay taking it, that I would not have wild side effects. I wouldn't be a zombie, She explained it just regulates the hormones through your brain, and it was a lifesaver.
Oh my goodness. Samantha, here's what I find refreshing. You are, I think more so than most of us, you do your own research. You delve into more of the preliminary stuff, and you want to go in and make sure that it's good for you. I don't think a lot of people, myself included, dwell that deep, even with my insatiable curiosity, into what this medication is going to do, even after I've explained what it might be. So the question is for you, when and where did you begin to do this massive research for your own edification of what might work best for you? Did it start with your gastric issues? Did you have that before? Do you read every label thoroughly? I mean, this to me, I'm inquisitive, but I think your depth is much more profound. So how did this all come about? I think there's a little bit of a doctor in you.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was the beginning of my perimenopause. It was my stomach issues. It was my heavy periods. It was my migraines, my panic attacks, my night sweats, my breakdowns, all that. And this medication treated people specifically that have hormonal issues. It is an antidepressant, and it is now I can't think of the word. It's anti-anxiety and antidepressant together. And those two things are the ones that help the most with the hormones. It's also the safest SSRI that's out there. It's the easiest one to get on. It's the easiest one to get off if you need to. It's safe enough to give to children. So I was 100% decided that was the one that I wanted to take, and started with 15 milligrams, and I maxed out at 100.
Wow. And is this something that you're still doing today? Is this something that will be until you leave the planet, or is this for a time frame? How does it work?
Well, now we have to see, because now I'm in the other realm. Now I'm officially flipped into full-blown menopause.
Ah, okay. So then, as a novice, I don't assume anything anymore. What is full-blown menopause before we go on?
My body is no longer creating any estrogen. Estrogen, that's correct. My body is no longer creating estrogen.
So you no longer have your menstrual cycle.
Well, the second piece of the puzzle, when I was starting perimenopause 7 or 8 years ago, was to also go on birth control because I still had terrible cramps and terrible periods, even though the medication was helping with my hormones and the fluxes and all that. But, the cramping and the pain was still there. And that's what the doctor said, Samantha, you have to get control of my hormones. Ironically, it was my gastro. So he jumped out of his lane because Tim and I had become like BFFs. We'd seen each other for a while.
Good.
After all the testing, we didn't have any secrets. So
I know.
So
oh my goodness.
I decided the best course of action for me was to get an IUD, which they insert into your cervix, and it releases progesterone. And it's safer because the progesterone does not travel through your entire body. It's not like taking a pill that you digest, and then you're at the higher risk of cancer, strokes, heart attacks. So the IUD was the best choice for me. And after about 6 or 8 months, my periods I had maybe 3 or 4 a year, and then eventually none.
That's what I was waiting to ask you when you said full blown. My limited knowing, and that's why I'm honored that you're sharing all of this with us today, was that when that happens, the menstrual cycle was completely over. So now you're saying it is, but you started off by saying you had issues, and they gave you something, not an IUD, but that you would have it every 3 or 4 months or something. So I got a little confused there. So unconfuse me.
No worries. So the IUD that I got on my 40th birthday stopped my periods after about a year while I was still in perimenopause.
Completely,
In perimenopause. So I was still making estrogen, and the IUD was giving me progesterone to help stop my period, stop the cramping, stop all that. Around my 47th birthday, it was time to swap out my IUD for a new one. So I made the appointment, I did that, and then I started going back. I started noticing symptoms that sounded very familiar. 8 years ago when I was in perimenopause. I had stomach issues again. I had panic attacks again. I had migraines again. And they happened in a cycle. And I called my doctor and I said, you just put this IUD in. It's brand new. Could it be broken? She was like, well, what you need to do is just go get your hormone levels tested. I was like, oh, okay. And in between there, well, we'll get to that when we talk about doctors and sort of the negative side effects. So I was like, oh, that's easy enough. So I went, had my blood work tested, and it came back that I had absolutely no estrogen, 0.0. I was officially post-menopausal, meaning menopause, done, no more estrogen, no more ovulating, no more any of that. So now I got thrown into that same cycle again.
Wow.
But not as that, because I was much more proactive in controlling my symptoms because I had been through all of this before. So I was able, with a small fight with my insurance company, I was able to resolve it in about 2 weeks. And knock on wood, it's not going to reoccur.
Wow. Well, all I can say, and I'm not being a smart ASS, is that I'm happy I didn't go through all of this. It sounds like you're a trooper, you are. And there's a couple of things. I think when it comes to us as women, that hormonal issue that we all have, regardless whether you've had a hysterectomy or whatever, and life cycles and so on, anxiety and that emotional stuff that we all deal with, that must be. And then you mentioned something that I think at some point, most of us as women, regardless of what our health issues are, we need to have our hormone levels tested. Does that make any sense to you at all? Is that something that we need to do? Yeah,
it absolutely does. And I never even knew it was a thing.
Yeah.
I was not really looking forward to the replacement of the IUD. That would be a whole conversation for another day, because I believe that all women should be sedated before that procedure happens. But I chose to
You
do
say
it.
sedated? Sedated?
Sedated, yes.
It's that uncomfortable, eh? Okay.
We did.
Woohoo.
But I volunteered for it. This was my choice. It wasn't something that, it wasn't like I was having surgery, and that's the way my doctor did it in the office. So I didn't really want to have it done, but I really wish someone had said to me, "Oh, go get your hormone levels tested before you swap out your IUD," because I knew that I was already postmenopausal. I wouldn't have bothered.
Wow. I think there's so many of us, and now, Samantha, I segue from one something to the other, but it all connects. We now have, and I get it, because advertising and marketing to a limited extent was part of my travels and professional whatever in the beginning, many moons ago. This anti-aging campaign that's going on, women today more than ever before, because technology and everything else, this hormonal testing thing, I think more women need to do, because the aging factor frightens the bejesus out of so many women. But aging is inevitable. It's how you do it. And this is one of the reasons that I celebrate what you do and how you do it, because you investigate and go and do your own research and find all of this stuff out. And I think you are something that's good for the medical industry. What do you think, with all of this awareness and awakenings that you've had in your life thus far, with this menopausal and the gastric and everything else, what are some of the loving points that you could align and make to doctors in any field today that would make them more, friendly, more likable, more people wouldn't be, I don't want to go there. What would that be?
So this is a good story. So once my stomach issues returned 8 years later, post brand new fresh IUD, I had to call my gastroenterologist, right? The man that has known me for 15 years, knows my history. He read the article from Johns Hopkins. He suggested I get the IUD. And he starts talking to me about, I think you really need to schedule a colonoscopy. You're 48 and, we need to screen for colon cancer. And I think you should do X, Y, Z. And I looked at him, I'm like, who are you? Remember me? Remember crying in your office, and the crying and the hormones I'm like, this is not something that requires a colonoscopy. I'm like, I will take the 2 medications I know will help my stomach. When I'm finished with those medications, if I am not better, then I will have a colonoscopy.
Good for you. I don't know where they came from either, but listen, I think they go on, when I say they, the they people, they go on in every different professional arena, or for that matter, entrepreneurial. They go on campaigns and they're in this cycle of whatever they're doing, and everybody follows suit and does the same thing. And for a while there, everybody, no matter where and who you spoke to, no matter what their specialty was, they were talking about go get a colonoscopy. So I get it. And it's not funny, but I get what you're saying. What do you find some of the medical industries, in all the work and the dealings that you've had with the issues and the concerns that you've dealt with and continue to deal with in a different way, what are some of the ways and issues that you would like to share some information that will be beneficial to all of those who are tuning in to listen now? And for all of you who are, whether you're at this period of life or not, you probably know someone who is or will be or has gone. So it's all good. So what would you say to the medical industry, Samantha? How would you approach them?
How would I approach the doctors or the patients?
Yes, the doctors.
The doctors, I would say, listen to the whole patient and stop jamming the C word, the cancer word, down everyone's throat, because some people do have cancer and it's horrible, but that seems to be the money shot. You need to get tested for cancer. And don't ask women, how many packs of cigarettes do you smoke a day? How many drinks do you have a day? Ask them, how many cans of soda do you drink a day? How often do you work out? What do you do to relieve your stress? Ask patients about their personal life, not just about eating, drinking, smoking, could you be pregnant?
I think that's so wise and that's so whatever, because I find that that key word that you mentioned, not only for doctors, for all the people, for me as well in the communication style industry, listen to what people really want and need. And you said they're shooting and they're pushing towards this cancer thing, and it is prevalent big time now. But what I discovered, and somewhat by accident because I was caught up in the web, I thought that it was cancer, but the number one killer for men and women is heart disease. I mean, but cancer is number one out there. And until you have your awakening, whenever and however that comes to you, you would think that, because high blood pressure and all that other stuff is a part of heart disease and so on and so forth. So your point is well made. What about where do we go with unnecessary medical testings? What can you share, some pivotal pinpoints or insights that will support people on their medical journeys, whatever it might be? What are some of the unnecessary medical testings that you have discovered thus far that will benefit those who might be tuning in now, that will help them on their journey?
Well, women in my situation that are having pain and issues based on being in menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause, even preteens that are, starting their periods for the first time. Yes, if you're having pain, if you're having, anxiety, if you're having skin rashes and all these sorts of different issues, don't go for the hormone test before you dive into anything. I mean, my doctor wanted me, because I was having pain in my stomach. Yes, I was having pain. It was gas. And they wanted me to go and have an ultrasound. I'm like, I don't need an ultrasound. Like, if I take this medication and it doesn't work, and it's not, what's happening with me is not what I think is happening, then we'll explore further. But you have to kind of listen to your own body and say, is this something temporary, or is this something long-term, ongoing, that doesn't stop? And that's when you need the test.
I like that. And while you're saying that, Samantha, all the time, the information that you share now, I'm thinking healthcare and how you go about it, the unnecessary medical testings. How does one's medical healthcare providers, how do they play into this? What have you learned about that?
Well, I mean, it's a business. It's an industry. It's a moneymaker. My doctor didn't make anything prescribing me, medication that I picked up at the pharmacy for $10. But, he would have made a pretty penny off my colonoscopy that I wouldn't have needed.
So then that says what? What are you saying, that the healthcare providers and the doctors, that it's a big business, a big industry, and they're aligned for profit?
I believe that they are, especially nowadays when the world is leaning more towards health and wellness versus medication. And I think doctors are a little scared because people are leaning more towards eating healthy foods, eliminating, dyes and artificial ingredients and GMOs. And, Kellogg's just came out with a big thing that they're taking out all this crap from their cereals. And my gosh, people might get healthier and live longer. So how are doctors going to make money?
Well, that's a salient point. And the reason I know this for sure, Samantha, is because health is everything. All the money and the power in the world won't sustain you if you don't keep this vessel, the body, the temple, aligned as best you can. And that's one of the reasons I celebrate you and how you go about looking after your temple, because this is what they're finding out, doctors and any and everybody in the healthcare profession. And they need to do what you mentioned earlier, listen more to what the person who might become their patient or client or whatever would be saying to them, because together you can grow, and everything is collaborative one way or the other. We don't do anything alone. But doctors, it was like a machine. The same thing for lawyers. And I think we're finding now that the person who's coming to you for guidance, assistance, they're the ones that you need to listen to and be heart-centered with. Otherwise, you're going to lose it. I just think that when you talk about, we're going to end with this because the time flies here. I can't believe it's almost over, but we have some time to go. Doctors for profit. What did you want to speak to about that? I think we did just now in a ginger way. But what about Doctors for Profit? What did you want to share with us about that before we go on to something else?
Kind of like we said before, pushing for these expensive tests, pushing for follow-up visits and blood work and this and that and CAT scans and ultrasounds and all these different things for an issue that is not persistent. If you have a persistent issue, yes, you definitely should have these tests done. But the doctor should not lead with that, especially for someone who might be a little bit, have white coat fear. And let's say you go to the doctor and you say, I've had been constipated for, 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, you might have cancer. You should go have a colonoscopy. That's probably not the right thing to say to that person. Like, why don't you say, what did you eat for dinner last night? Was it a cheeseburger? Because if it was, that might be a problem.
I love that. I love laughter, and I have this weird sense of humor because I'm so serious most of the time. When you said the white coat fear, I don't think I've heard that in quite a while, but there is that still. And I remember, especially sometimes contingent upon kids and children and so on and so forth, and a lot of adults, when dentists and doctors and so on. White coat fear. That's a good one. All right, Samantha, before we wrap up here, you know that the work that I do, I work as a leadership and signature style specialist. And of late, I'm labeling myself a minister because everybody said, Joe, you do a lot of preaching. But I don't preach. I just share an awakening. I am now the minister of enlightenment, awareness, and awakenings. So because style in all of its glory, from head to toe, top to bottom, hair to shoes, how we show up matters. So all of this brilliant work that you're doing for yourself and sharing it with others, how does your style, your signature style, reflect the essence and the power of you and what you're doing? How would you address that?
I would definitely say healthy. I always show up trying to look as healthy as possible. And I never did mention, I just want to kind of say real quick. So we were talking about science and medications and when they are necessary. And that's each individual person's own decision. And I'm certainly not pushing anyone. But sometimes when you're able to get conditions under control, then you can go back to nature. Like once I got my issues under control, I started to eat salads, I ate fruit, I ate things I couldn't eat before. So there is that element. So when I go out, I like to make sure my skin looks healthy, my hair looks healthy, I'm dressed appropriately. So healthy and well.
Well, that's a good response, because I was going to ask you, what does healthy mean to you as far as your style? You said your healthy skin, your hair and eyes glowing, so on and so forth. But the style of your presence and the image and the appearance of how you show up in your clothes, what is that to you?
To me, it's very functional. Depending where I'm going or what I'm doing. If I'm going to work, I'm wearing my work clothes. If I'm going to the pool, I'm wearing a bathing suit. If I'm going out shopping, I might be wearing, slacks and a blouse. But I would just say functional.
Well, I like the two of those together, Samantha. Healthy and functional is a good one. We need one more to tie it all together, but I get it. Now, you already gave us somewhat, but what is your pivotal food for thought, words of wisdom, a takeaway that you want to leave those who are tuning in now and those who later come for the replay? What do you want them to walk away with when it comes to all that you're about, which is being a certified integrative nutritional health coach? And we talk today all about menopause. You don't have to be brief, but what pearls of wisdom do you want to leave people with? And also your website, how do people connect with you? Say your website or your email or whatever, so people can connect with you, because this is radio. It's not like live stream. So that said, the stage is yours.
So my words of wisdom to women that are going through these hormonal fluxes: you don't have to feel this way. There are options. You don't have to go down the road that I did. You don't have to run out and get an ID and take an SSRI. But if you want to, you can. You can try things. You can ask your doctor questions. You don't have to. A lot of women think, oh, this is just part of life. This is, the cycle of life, and it happens to everyone, and we have to deal with this. But women do so much more now. These changes can drastically affect your family life, your work life, your relationships. And I don't know how long I would have been able to survive had I not taken this particular path. The science that was able to lead me to the nature, which was able to lead me to living my best life. So ask questions, do research, not WebMD, look at places like Johns Hopkins is good, Mayo Clinic. There's lots of, I think Mayo Clinic is my go-to right now because they're very, very user-friendly and they don't use a lot of fancy doctor mumbo-jumbo that the normal person doesn't understand. I've found a lot of things through there. So do research. Keep a journal. Write things down. Take them to your doctor. This is what I'm feeling. This is how it's been going for the last month. This is what I found. What do you think about this? Ask questions. Don't be dismissed as, oh, that's just how you're going to feel now because you're going through menopause.
I love that ending. Ask questions is a great ending because that's what it needs to be. Do you have a website?
I do not, but
okay.
You can go ahead and drop me an email at yourbestlife.samantha@gmail.com.
All right. When we send out the poster to you, Samantha, we'll make sure that if that's in your assessment form to me, we'll make sure that that's on that. And thank you. This was for me, and I hope, and I'm sure it will be for all of those who are tuning in, a really positive, loving insight to what can be with menopause. So that's a wrap for today's episode of Leaders in Light, Love, and Legacy. I'm Joy Ruffen, and it's always my honor to be your guide on this journey. Because as your minister of enlightenment, awareness, and awakenings, we hope that today's insight stirred something in you, deep within you. Don't let it stop here. There's so much more waiting for you. So visit me at joyruffen.com to connect with me personally. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Joy Ruffen Fashioning Femininity, Style, and Truth. We spoke a lot about truth today. For more conversations, insights, and style with substance. Because whether you're drawn to leadership, style, divine femininity, we spoke about that today, truth, that as well, or simply the power of living boldly. There's always something fresh, fiery, I love fiery, and soul-stirring waiting here for you. We gather every Tuesday at 6 p.m. on Fave Unite Radio, and we can't wait to welcome you back. So until the next time, my League of Eagles, stay rooted in grace, rise in your power, and never stop soaring. From my heart to yours, much love. And remember, here's to style, truth, and the legacy we're building together. Until we meet again, stay radiant, stay ready, and stay tuned. Until the next time, cheers from my heart to yours, and much love.